Oh, Spoleto, you are a beautiful city, one of the great hill towns of Italy, located in the region of Umbria in the center of the country. If it's on a hill, there must be steps, and yes, there are many steps in Spoleto, and also some level lanes in this pedestrian zone at the heart of town. We are going to take you on a walking tour through this delightful historic center, which you can experience during the daytime and after dark when the town comes out for its evening stroll for the classic Italian passeggiata. The pedestrian town center has a special character with inviting cobblestone lanes and alluring medieval alleys. From the Roman period to the present day, the charm of Spoleto history has seduced visitors through the ages. With an excellent state of preservation, the old town is not very different from what it looked like to the 18th and 19th century travelers. Spoleto has so many little lanes and staircases and historic buildings and vistas that you'll probably want to spend a couple of days here. And then once you're in the old town, it's just walking. Everything is walking distance. The old town is about a square mile, so it's a very manageable size, and it's chock full of restaurants and shops, of course, and museums and old palaces. It makes a great place for walking. Spoleto is very convenient because it's located on a main train line. And there's the little public bus that will run you up to the old town for a very modest fee, or you could take a taxi. Most people are familiar with Tuscany, with its famous capital of Florence, and below it is the city of Rome. And while Umbria is less well known, it's every bit as beautiful as Tuscany. And it makes a good base for touring some other nearby Umbrian towns, such as Spoleto, and that's only a half an hour train ride away. Umbria has lots of these small, beautifully preserved historic towns that are just waiting for you to visit, and they are not crowded because they're not nearly as well known as many of the cities of Tuscany. Looking down at the main part of Spoleto's historic center with its landmark cathedral and castle, and especially the little lanes within that white circle that we're going to be walking through in this episode, starting out at Piazza della Liberta. It's a good place to begin because now you're on the edge of the old town ready to explore, and city buses will bring you directly here from the train station. Also, there's a parking lot down below for automobiles connected up by escalators. Corso Mazzini extends out from the piazza and is one of the main streets of the city. It's a broad pedestrian promenade lined with shops, hotels, and restaurants, with alluring side streets. Corso Mazzini is quite different than most streets in the old town because it's wide and straight. Most other streets in the old town are narrow and curved, dating back centuries, but Corso Mazzini was created in the mid-19th century in an effort to make the old town more accessible. It's also delightful to stroll in the evening when locals are out shopping, talking, enjoying their stroll, the passeggiata. We'll be showing you quite a bit of Spoleto at night, as well as during the daytime. The street is named after Giuseppe Mazzini, who was one of the heroes and leaders of the Italian struggle for unification in the mid-19th century. He was one of the founders of the first organized political party in the history of Italy. There is one other street in the old town that's similarly straight and wide, named after another hero of the independence movement, Garibaldi, the real leader. We'll show you that one in a different video about Spoleto that covers the lower town. In this program, we're looking more at the upper town. And of course, the dogs are out on display and passeggiata as well. Here's some doggy cam showing this quintet hustling along with this mistress. They are heading back towards Piazza della Liberta, where we began the walk. The street is just about 250 meters long, so it's quite easy to stroll the entire length, and you might want to walk back and forth. There's a lot to see, but we're just getting started, so let's dive into some of the little side lanes. Hang on, here's a quick preview of the route that we're about to take. We started on Mazzini, and we're going to go around and around and around and around. It's a bit of a maze in these old streets of the Spoleto medieval center, and you could just wander freely at will or follow a certain path so that you can see all the main sights, as we're going to show you now. Turning left on Plinio il Giovanni. They even have some little buses that can navigate these side streets. There is a mix here of some streets that are for pedestrians only and others that allow some cars but are still easy to walk on. Night and day in the same location, it takes on a different atmosphere, so it's really great to have enough time in your visit to be able to walk around both daytime and in the evening. This former church has been converted into an intimate cinema showhouse. Down at the end of Plinio il Giovanni, we reached the Caffè Colicola on a small piazza of the same name. Charming spot to kick back for a drink. Continuing a few blocks along Via Giustolo, one of those mixed streets with some cars and yes, even little buses come whizzing through, driving under the old medieval archway. They don't have any sidewalks on these little streets, but it's still quite safe for pedestrians. It brings us to the town's main theater for orchestra and opera, built in the neoclassical style of the mid-19th century. It's named after the composer Giancarlo Menotti, who founded the famous music Festival of Two Worlds in Spoleto in 1958. Back along some narrow lanes, including Via del Mercato, we're heading to the main piazza of town, the market square. This little lane is one of the main streets of town. It's an extension of Via Plinio il Giovanni that we were just on earlier, and then it'll continue beyond, changing names to Via del Municipio, going by the town hall. It's inevitable when you're walking around the city, whether it's day or night, you're going to see groups of kids out having fun. This is a very safe place to be for visitors and locals alike. The town hall, with its Roman house, we'll show you in our other movie, and right next to it, Piazza del Mercato. This place has been the center of town for more than 2,000 years. The Romans established their settlement here in the year 241 BC, and this was the main central square of those ancient Romans. It was their forum, surrounded by temples and palaces and lively activity like shopping, eating, and drinking, and that's still going on today. That might seem to be a Baroque church at the end of the forum, but take a closer look up on the side balcony and you'll see some laundry hanging out. Well, this never was a church, and there are people living upstairs. This is a monument to the powerful Barberini family from Rome. You see the bees up on the facade, the symbol of the Barberinis. All of it designed by Carlo Maderno in 1626. The fountain dates to 1743. Previously, there had been a Romanesque church on this site, but it fell down in the end of the 16th century. Sometimes the piazza is pretty quiet. It gets taken over by the neighborhood cats who can enjoy their dinner thanks to some nearby caretakers right in the square. People eat here also at the various restaurants and cafes that are around the piazza. A favorite spot here is Caffè degli Artisti. It's a terrific place for a drink. Try the local wine. While Tuscany is famous for its wines like the Brunellos, Chianti, the Super Tuscans, Umbria also produces quality wine. Perhaps have a beer or a spritz. Have a snack, maybe a light lunch, a light meal, and just a fun place to gather, even if you're not buying anything. Sometimes my camera stimulates some friendly conversation with the locals, so put this cafe on your list when you get to Spoleto. Also right here, try Osteria del Matto. Somebody on Yelp said, "Oh my God, if I could eat here every night, I would." This was a trip-making spot. Wow, we just loved it. At the south end of the piazza, there's an ancient Roman arch called Arco di Druso we'll tell you more about in our Monuments movie. So you see, the piazza is a good place to eat and drink. How about fresh pasta with truffles, a local specialty? During the day, the piazza usually has lunch trucks out, and in the morning, there's a produce market. Here's the next leg of our walking journey. We go along Via delle Felici, and heading up towards the Duomo. It's about 500 meters. First stop just south of the market is the Pietro Fontana and Palazzo Mori, built in the late 1600s and now has a public library. It also has the Literary Cafe, open to the public for food and drinks. And you can see a Roman mosaic floor down in the basement. Around the corner there's a major Roman site. It's the Arch of Monteroni. It was one of the 5 main gates through the ancient Roman defensive walls. This leads us right to the Via delle Felici, which has its own arch leading into the street. There are lots of these street arches in Spoleto. It looks like another narrow pedestrian street, but no, cars can drive right through this little archway. And so can trucks, so watch out for the traffic. Well, these drivers know what they're doing, obviously very experienced at these roads, so they just gun it and speed right along. Another section of the massive ancient defensive wall. These were actually built before the Romans by the Umbri. That was a tribe who settled in this area first and had a thriving culture for many centuries. That's why we call the region Umbria. Via Felici continues on for a few blocks, and there's also a staircase that veers off from it. Like many of the staircases here in this hill town, it's more of a ramp with some steps in it. Makes it easy to go up. It leads to Via Brignone and then around the bend to Piazza Campello, where you'll see the Mascheroni fountain. It's got drinkable water. You'll probably also see the small cat colony that lives in this piazza. They're being taken care of by some of the neighbors who provide them with food and attention. And there are some benches in this little park, so it's a good place to sit, watch the cats, and rest up after climbing that staircase. We'll walk to Piazza del Duomo and then along Via del Duomo with a few side trips. Via Aurelio Saffi has several arches across it, including one with a medieval loggia at the top. This street is almost like a little piazza. It's quite level and it's wide, and it's contained at both ends by these beautiful arched buildings. This leads us to one of the great sights of the city, the Cathedral Santa Maria Assunta, with its magnificent Romanesque facade. We'll take you inside in our other movie on the monuments of Spoleto, but for now we're continuing, not climbing the steps of Via dell'Aringo, but going off to the right on Via del Duomo. And we'll show you one little deviation up the steps of Via dello Spagna. One of the reasons for these picturesque arches was so they can build a house on top of the street, probably connecting 2 houses on opposite sides of the street. So it's functional and beautiful. There's a fork in the road that brings us around to Piazza della Signoria, which provides a lovely view on the town below. In one more block, I came across another staircase street, Via dello Spagna, and happened to stumble into a very amusing family drama. It's the little boy who doesn't want to walk up the steps.
No.
He's waiting at the bottom, not moving, and realizes nobody's coming to his rescue, so he's got to start climbing, and up he goes. He remembers younger days when he got carried up these hills. He makes it halfway, and then it gets steeper. He's even able to run a little bit, catching up with Mom to ask for some help.
No. No.
He has put his foot down. He's gone far enough and will not budge. Then he smiles when Mom finally picks him up and carries him away. A kid triumphant with a free ride to the top. Well, he did walk half the way, and he's pretty small and those steps are pretty big for him. Mom is obviously used to this, so it worked out well for the family. The street then levels off, and we continue along for a few blocks and then back down to Via del Duomo. By now you've noticed that these streets are not crowded. It was amazing to enjoy such a beautiful location in peace and tranquility. And the reasons for that are that Spoleto is just not nearly as well-known a city as the big guns of Tuscany like Florence and Siena. And the other big reason is the time of year. I was visiting in the middle of the month of November. The weather was great. It was a little cool. You put on a sweater or a jacket and you're going to be just fine. But curiously, it can get a little foggy at this time of year in the fall and in the winter, which can be quite nice. It provides an added element of atmosphere, and usually it quickly blows away. These cool temperatures make it easy to do lots of walking. And now resuming our stroll along Via del Duomo. The two-star Hotel Panchioli has an excellent location right in the center of the old town. It's just got 7 rooms and a restaurant and a terrace with a view. You could reach it by taxi from the train station, or you could even drive there with your own car. Well, now we've just got a few more streets to see in our walking tour of Upper Spoleto as we start out on Via Filiteria. As you walk around the curve in the road, be sure to go over to the side where you get a nice view looking out across the city down into the newer part of town. Via Filiteria is a pretty busy street with buses rolling by, and you've got a nice tea room here, Tè Bro, and there's always these little side streets that lead off from the main streets that are intriguing to have a look down. You've been watching an in-depth look at the real Spoleto, getting beyond just the tourist monuments of the churches and the museums, which are practically the only sites that you'll read about in a typical guidebook. In fact, it's hard to find a guidebook that has a lot of useful information about Spoleto. The Umbria guidebooks might have a small chapter that covers the churches, museums, the restaurants, and hotels, but they really don't tell you much about where to walk when you're here and what to see. Of course, the museums, monuments, and churches are quite interesting in their own right, and so we are creating a separate movie all about that. You also want to see those sites while visiting, but today's focus has been on the people and the little streets of the old town, and how to see it without getting lost. You've noticed there are staircases, ramps, steps, inclined streets that you have to deal with when you're walking around because this is a hill town. They have engineered it very nicely so that it's quite easy to navigate. This kind of walking brings you in contact with the locals. On the other hand, many, if not most tourists, avoid this by taking the escalators the city has provided. There are 3 separate routes of these escalators and travelators, mostly underground, that will bring you up the hill. So you can bypass all of the streets that we've been walking on, which is great for those who need them, but for the rest of us, it pulls you away from the direct, authentic contact with the city itself. And that's a shame, because one of the great joys of traveling, especially in a hill town in Umbria, is just wandering the little lanes, maybe getting lost, perhaps meeting some locals. It's all part of the adventure. Via Perleone brings us to the last intersection of our walk. We've arrived at Piazza Torre dell'Olio, which is named for that great tower looming over the city, the only one left of 100 that were here previously. In medieval Italy, towers were the skyscrapers of the day. They were a way of defending the household against attack from outsiders or bandits, and they symbolized the great wealth and strength of the owners. I happened to meet a friendly local guy who works in his tower.
The tower of my father.
Of your family?
My family.
That's his tower.
My father rebuilding.
Restored, yeah.
And this is original.
Oh, well. And what's your name?
Leonardo.
Leonardo. And you're a carpenter.
And I'm a carpenter.
Third generation.
3 generation of carpenter.
So this is Gothic, huh?
Si, Gothic.
Leonardo invited me into his carpenter's workshop.
Traditional shop. My grandfather.
Oh.
My father, my uncle, my brother.
Right. Wow. How old? 1,000?
800.
800. Okay. Wow.
More height, more power.
I asked him about the street going down from here. And the name of the street again?
Via Puerto Vuga.
Via Puerto Vuga. Okay. We have reached the last leg of our walk through Upper Spoleto, heading down Via Puerto Vuga, which has an amazing tale to tell. It was the salvation of ancient Western civilization. What? Remember Hannibal crossing the Alps with his elephants attacking Rome in 217 BC? Well, he got to this point in Spoleto with a Roman gate and defenses that defeated him and pushed him back and prevented him from attacking Rome and preserving the foundation of Western civilization. You must come and visit Spoleto. That completes our walking tour of the upper town. And now I have just one more thing to show you, an excellent restaurant that you would love to dine at, next to the market and Arch of Druso.
The name of the restaurant is Tempio del Gusto. The location is in Via Arco di Druso in Spoleto, in the center. The food is very typical. We use the ingredients from this area, remake the old recipe in a new way. All the dessert, all the pasta are made in our kitchen.
That's good.
And our specialties is of course the truffle, pasta with truffle, tagliatelle with white truffle. Now we are in the season of white truffle. You can go in the kitchen.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. And my husband is the chef. If you want, I can introduce you my husband.
Yeah, you're busy. Very busy.
We are very busy. Fortunately, we are very busy today. We have to show the last white truffle for the summer.
Oh, really?
For this week. For this week.
For this week, yeah, okay. Let's see those truffles.
Questo è oro bianco, lo chiamiamo oro bianco. This year is a very poor season for white truffle, very poor. Molto poco. We have just few truffle and the price is the double than last year. Very expensive. Yeah, bad weather. Appetizer with prosciutto di norcia, salsa with vinegar.
Go for it. Okay, arrivederci.
The wine cellar, if you want,
Oh,
very
okay.
interesting because it's a very old. The Roman floor
Roman floor.
building date 1st century before Christ, more or less 2,000 years. There was a building, a Roman temple.
A temple.
Yeah,
The temperature is good down
yeah,
here.
we have a good temperature. All the year we have the same temperature, and we have different kind of wine from the Italy, from the north to the south. Yeah.
Very good. We frequently upload new movies, so please subscribe to our channel and click that little alarm bell so you'll be notified. And if you enjoyed the movie, how about a thumbs up? And we always welcome comments down below. Or if you have questions about the destination, make note and we'll answer them. Thanks for watching.